Hello everyone, HMT here with a video on simple interest, a starter pack. Interest is a fee for the use of someone else's money. If you borrow, say, $200, the owner of that money is deprived of the use of that money while you have it. They deserve compensation. That is interest. The amount of interest is usually computed as a percentage of the amount borrowed. So for example, in this instance here, suppose you borrow $200 at 5% per year simple interest. Did you see that? /A, that's Latin, 5% per annum, same as 5% per year. So the dollar value of the interest charged in 1 year in this situation would be 5% of $200. Now, the percent symbol means per 100 or out of 100. So I would write that as 5 over 100. Of means times. Now, if you execute that division, 5 divided by 100 is 0.05 times 200. And when you multiply that out, you get $10. That's the annual dollar amount of interest, which is due in this situation. Let's track the course of this loan for 3 years. Year 1, Year 2, Year 3. Here I will put interest for this column and amount for this column. So on the first year, we've just computed that you would owe $10 in interest for using that money for 1 year, for having that loan out against you. If you paid it back after 1 year, you'd pay back the original $200 plus $10 in interest. That would be the amount you pay back after 1 year. To keep the loan out against yourself for another year means $10 more in interest is accrued against you. And to pay it back after 2 years, you would pay back $220. And for a third year, another $10 in interest is applied. So if you paid it back after 3 years, you'd pay back $230. Notice that the amount of interest every year is the same. That's what makes it simple interest. To solve simple interest problems, you need two formulas. They are here. I equals PRT and A equals P plus I. Let's define all the letters that appear within these formulas. Capital I is interest. As a dollar value, not a percent. Applied to the whole term of the investment, or the term of the loan, not just 1 year. P is principal. That is spelled correctly, and it is the initial investment value, or the amount that's borrowed at the start. It's the initial investment value, or as I say, the amount that's borrowed at the start of a loan term. R is the annual simple interest rate as a decimal, not as a percent. T is time, and it must be in years. The only other letter we haven't dealt with yet is capital A, and that is called the amount. And that is equal to the investment value at the end of the term. Or the amount you pay back at the end when your loan is due. Now let's practice these formulas in word problem situations. The first thing I'd like to do is check to see if these formulas give us the same numbers we got when we did it with the chart method last page. So in that situation, in the example we did at the start, what we did was we had a principal value in that first example we were doing of $200. We had an interest rate as a decimal of 0.05, you'll recall, and the term of that loan was 3 years. Let's check to see how these formulas stack up against the numbers that the chart gave us. Well, take these three numbers and plug them in these three positions, and you get a total interest value of 200 times 0.05 times 3. And if you multiply that all out, you get $30. And that is what we had in the chart when we did it the first time. That's the same number as this. 10, 10, and 10, that's $30. $30 in interest. So far it's good. Now, the amount of the investment is P plus I. That's the amount that's paid back at the end of the term of the loan. P is the amount that was borrowed, and I is the dollar value of the interest applied throughout the term of the loan. So remember, P is 200, and I was just computed here. We know that's 30. We take these values and plug them in these positions, and the amount of this loan is 200 plus 30, and the amount is $230. And that is what we had when we did it with the chart form, right there. We have two other problems to look at for practice. Here's one. $720 is borrowed. Annual simple interest is applied. After 5 years, $153 in interest is accrued against the borrower. What is the annual simple interest rate at work here in this situation? Well, let's write down the formula. I equals PRT. Go to the margin and try to identify as many letters as you can by reading and, if necessary, rereading the problem. So as we read the problem, $720 is borrowed. That's the amount of the investment, the amount of the loan at the start. So that would be P. R is the interest rate. We don't know that. In fact, that's what the problem is asking. I'll put a question mark there. Time is in years, and if we read the problem, it says after 5 years. So time is 5. And capital I is known in this problem because it says this is the dollar value of the interest which accrued against the borrower throughout the term of the loan. So that's 153. That would go here. Take a moment and notice that of the 4 letters in the formula, we know the value of 3 of them. So take these values and come back to the formula and substitute everything in. Here we go. So I equals P times unknown R, I have to leave it as R, times time, which is 5. So I'm going to simplify the right side by multiplying 5 times 720. So I go 5 times 720, and that's 3,600 times R. Now I want to solve for R. Multiplication's going on here, so in order to find out what R is, I will divide by 3,600 on both sides. There it is. Now 3,600 divided by 3,600, that's going to be just 1, because it divides into itself once. They cancel out. And so you get R is 153 over 3,600. Quick check on the calculator. 153 divided by 3,600 is 0.0425. 0.0425. There it is. Now I need to express it as a percent. Currently, this is just a decimal. Now there's an invisible 1 under here. To write it as a percent, I need to have it out of 100. So I will take a moment and multiply the top by 100 and the bottom by 100. You don't have to use this method. You can use whatever method works for you. And you get 4.25 divided by 100 is R. Now that's the definition of percent. Percent means out of 100. So I can simply say 4.25% now is equal to R, and that answers that question. Let's try this next example. You invest $360 at 3.5% per annum simple interest. What is your investment worth 42 months later? Very good question. Well, let's write down the formula. I equals PRT, and go over to the margin and try to identify the letter values by reading the problem or rereading if necessary. So over here we have P, which is principal. Well, that's obviously $360. R is the interest rate as a decimal. Well, this is 3.5%, right? So I'm going to write that as 3.5%, and then I'm going to remove the percent symbol and move the decimal 2 to the left. That's the same as dividing by 100, and I get that R is 0.035. And time is 42 months. Now I know it's supposed to be in years, but while I'm calculating, while I'm thinking, I'll just write 42 months here. So I have to convert that to years before I can access the formula. 12 months in a year. I think I'll just divide this into groups of 12. How many years would there be? 12 months in a year. 12 into 42 gives a time of 3.5 years, right? 3.5 groups of 12 months. One group of 12 months is a year. So I have my values, and I'm going to substitute them in this formula. So here, capital I is unknown, the dollar value of interest accrued throughout the term of the loan, that's unknown, but principal is $360. The rate is 3.5% or 0.035, and the time is 3.5 years. When I multiply those out, it'll require a calculator, that's for sure. 360 times 0.035 times 3.5 gives us 44.1. So I equals $44.10. That's the interest accrued throughout the term of this investment. But wait, there's more. The next formula says the amount of the investment, that's what the investment is worth. That's not what the investment is worth. That's what the investment earned. What the investment is worth is what you earned in interest plus the original principal. So A equals P plus I. And we just worked out that I is $44.10, and we know the original principal was $360. Right? So the amount of the investment, the value of it at term, will be 360 plus 44.10 is $404.10. That's what the investment is worth at term. Thank you very much. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and share. If you have suggestions for future videos, please leave those in the comments below.